Michael Carrick. Couldn't get near him. That might have been the end of my time, mate, to be honest. He was coming back from an injury, he played in midfield, played 1 and 2 touch the whole game, showed the level really. There's that fear of the unknown when players get released, they think I need to cling on, need to do this, do that. But actually, there needs to be more people being spoke about, through players that have gone on to do other things. He said it was like a 0.012% that you make it as a Premier League player if you sign as a pro. I'd say I would throw it between 2. Leo Chambers, unbelievable, had a lot of injury issues that obviously doesn't play anymore. Brilliant player. Ravel Morrison, talent-wise, insane. Just things that you can't do as a player, he'd be able to do so. Which at times I thought, oh God, this has been really difficult. But then there's other times you've got to think, oh, I've got through that. Actually, this is just going to be another thing that you're going to tick in the box and you're going to get through.
Right, and we are live. Welcome everyone to another episode of the Coach Gerald Lami podcast. Today, again, another special episode. I'm joined by former West Ham United player Kieran Bywater, currently as well providing financial advice and helping others to achieve their goals and their objectives. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Kieran. Welcome, Kieran. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, cheers. My pleasure's mine, really. Glad to be here, mate.
Appreciate it. I like the view as well that you got behind you at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit rainy up here in Manchester, but it's a nice little spot in the city centre here. So just trying to survive this tier 3 lockdown at the minute.
Oh, mate, tell me about it. And has that been for you? Has it been for your family? During this time.
Yeah. Thankfully, we're all okay. So that's the main thing at the minute. Everyone's well. Everyone's in a job at the minute, which is the main thing for everyone to keep going. And it's been a bit of a strange time, like anything. I've been obviously up here by myself in the city centre, so in the pure lockdown, running your business and things like that. It's just been out of your lounge, out of your bedroom, that sort of thing, like everybody else. But no, can't complain really, mate.
Yeah. Would you? Because I know a lot of people, they're quite hands-on with a lot of things. Would you say you can use a lot of techniques that we've had to kind of been forced to use during lockdown? Would you think, going forward, would you still use certain things that we've had to do in lockdown, in your profession?
Yeah, like this right now, Zoom and things like that. I think that's something that I'll definitely use to save me traveling down, whether I have to go to London, etc. for just maybe initial meeting with someone. You can just sit and chat like this. I think it's just made everyone a lot more comfortable with it, and when obviously I started at the beginning of this year, I didn't, like anybody, I didn't see this coming and start a new career. Yeah. So, it's taught me a few things definitely, and it's that resilience again that just it's got to be there for the rest of your life, really.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's kind of been forced upon us, hasn't it? And it's like, we got to adapt. And I think that's the beauty of human beings. I think we're quite adaptable into any surroundings that we're in. And like you said, it's about being resilient and, using what we have around us and making something out of it. So, definitely. It's definitely been an eye opener. Like you said, no one really expected this to happen. I would have never thought in my lifetime, I would say, I've been in a pandemic like this. What I mean?
No, it's good.
It's crazy.
We're going to look back at it for sure. It's one of those, hopefully that we could look back and, well, not smile, because obviously it's been awful, really. But it's just one of those that, you can definitely, if you can get through the other side of it, there's definitely things that, it's made you stronger at the end of the day. No,
for sure. So Kieran, just quickly about the podcast. So initially, again, I started a podcast in the pandemic. I was just sitting at home. I was thinking, I can't just be sitting around. I have to be doing something. And so the idea was more so came from because of my own experiences, and quite similar to yours, where you've played at a certain level. And it's not always the glitz and glam that you always hear from football, footballers making it to the highest level. A lot of players don't make it to the highest level. And that's some things that maybe doesn't get the limelight as much as players, of course, making it to the highest level. So for me, it was more so to get individuals like yourself, people that have made it to the top, coaches, players, people in the media, and kind of just give an insight to youths in terms of, the good, the bad, the different avenues that you can go into football. If you've got a passion for football, whether it will be cooking, you can go and become a chef club, whether it will be, you know, finance as you're doing at the moment, working with possibly clubs or players, you know, giving them financial advice. Do you know what I mean? Barbering, like there's barbers that are, you know,
different avenues, isn't there? Yeah.
There's so much. So that was more so where you know, the direction of the podcast was going towards. You know, as recently we've had the unfortunate news of Jeremy Whiston at the moment at Man City, who the reports were that obviously he's taken his life due to being released from Man City. Now you've been through a similar situation yourself, you know, in terms of being released, and kind of just being left in the dark. Like, what's first of all, what's your experience of that, and also what's your take on clubs and their support after players have been released?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, it's an important topic, and it keeps coming up. You know, I think people, you know, it's one of those things again where people, you know, post about it, here to talk, here to this, here to that. Well, it's too late at that point, in my opinion. It's got to be more of a preventative process of getting to that stage, you know, where I see, you know, it's awful what's happened to Jeremy, but it's going on all the time. It's not just that. Obviously, he's seen no way out, and there needs to be things put in place that there is a way out. You know, I can relate to him completely. You know, I was in a dark place when I stopped playing, and it just spirals out of control, and it's that loss of identity. But there's that fear of the unknown massively with when players get released. You know, they think, I need to cling on, need to do this, do that. But actually, you know, I was a few years older. You know, I was a young professional than Jeremy was at Man City. But there needs to be more people being spoke about, you know, through players that have gone on to do other things, you know, rather than just the ones that have ended up, you know, I'm saying it again and again, you know, the Jamie Vardy stories, people talk about it all the time like it's a high percentage. You know, I think it's, I remember when I was in Mike Calvin's book, No Hunger in Paradise, and he said it was like a 0.012% that you make it as a Premier League player if you sign as a pro, you know, and okay, well, you're getting released at 20, then now what's your chances? And is there more of a different avenue for you to go and be successful and be happy? I think that's a massive thing that's taken away from people, that's not spoken about enough for young lads. It's actually what's going to make you happy, and, you know, re-identifying yourself is difficult for anybody in any point of their life, let alone a young lad that's only known football and his friends only know him as football and his family only speak to him as a footballer. But there's a person first before any of that, you know, and I think that's what the problem is at the minute. It's, you know, there needs to be more conversations, more cutthroat conversations, and people showing emotional intelligence to understand young men.
Yeah. No, I totally agree with you. And I feel like there's an element, of course, you know, it's a business at the end of the day. And I think a lot of people get blinded by that, where it's like they just think about the business. And like you said, they don't really think about the person themselves. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to people, you know, the way we handle them, the way we treat them. And a lot of clubs, I'm sure there's a lot of clubs that are doing great work. Do you know what I mean? I'm sure there's clubs that are going to be helping out their players. But in terms of an overall perspective of it, when people think about football, they think of players being assets. And are you good enough? Are you not good enough? If you're good enough, okay, we're going to open up the door for you, and we're going to see where that's going to lead you. If you're not good enough, we're going to close that door, and you're going to have to find your own way after we've obviously been with you for the past 10 years, as from the age of 8 to the age of whatever, 21, 18. Now, being in that environment, you've been in that environment, like, talk to us about the competitiveness of being in that environment and actually realizing, you know what, this is a tough industry to kind of get through the door. Like, what was that like being for you in West Ham? Because you was at one of the best academies, arguably in Europe. You know, West Ham have produced great players along the way. What was that like for you, being in that sort of environment?
I loved it at the time. It was something that I thrived on, you know, that competitiveness every day and trying to get better and compete. For me, it was an environment that I felt I thrived in until it was taken away from me, if that makes sense. You know, I felt like I was growing all the time, and I lived with that. I had issues off the field that, when I was a young person that I dealt with through football. So that was, I had a why, if you like, and I had a driving force behind me, which really pushed me. And, I pushed other people, at the time I used to push people around me as well, to be better, to want more, to always be pushing. And, definitely looking back at it where, 16, 17, were there some lads that probably weren't cut out for it, probably, that weren't up to, that brutal, it's quite a brutal environment. Any lads that are probably still playing, it's still the same in first team football. But, that's one of those things where it's a fine line between, actually, is this the right thing for some people? How's it affecting them emotionally? How can they, are they coping? Is their performance dropping due to, other stresses? And there's just a lot more to consider when you look at things.
No, for sure. And how did you deal with that time when, West Ham said, you know what, Kieran, thanks for your time, mate, but we're not going to continue with you? Talk to us about your emotions, what you went through, how did it happen, and yeah, just your next steps. Like, what was that like?
It was a shock for me at the time. I thought it was never something that I was expecting. There'd been talks about contracts. I've said it many a times in different interviews and stuff like that. But it was a bit of a shock. And my initial thoughts were, I'll get another club. That was just where I was at. I wasn't even thinking. I was just thinking, right, who are we going to speak to and where we're going to get up to? Because I didn't think that would be an issue. I've been captain of the reserve side or the under-21s at the time, and just didn't even cross my mind. But all of a sudden, you're just another number as a released player. They don't care you've been captain of a reserve team. They don't care that you've been training with the first team. They don't care about anything. They don't care you've scored 19 goals the season before. You're just another number. Actually, we're going to take a gamble on you, or we've had this lad who's been here 5-6 years anyway, at reserve level or League 1 and 2. I was 20 going on trial, and it's like, well, you've got no league experience. Well, the reasons for me not having it, because I didn't get a loan when I was a young pro. That's just the fine line between it. And all of a sudden, overnight, it just starts ticking over. You're jumping in these random games, playing with people, and all my friends started making debuts at West Ham, started playing at other places. Not that I was envious towards them. It was more the fact of why is that not me? Why has that suddenly changed? There was no different in level of ability or mentality or anything like that. It was just circumstances and opinions. And all of a sudden, it starts impacting you mentally. And that's when I started to struggle, when football had never really been my issue. And other stuff made that I dealt my problems with football. When football was the issue, I didn't know how to handle it emotionally. I was reserved, and I'm going all through this in my head. And then you jumping out onto a pitch and playing again. And I just wasn't in the right frame of mind at all, looking back at it as a young player. I was never going to perform at the level that I was 6 months prior to that, because where my head was more than anything. And it's all of a sudden where I'd been in that dog eat dog, and that mentality that I had of drive, win, pushing all the time, had just changed. And it was hard to deal with that, really.
And how long was it since you had your next club after you got released?
So after I got released, I went on trial like a few clubs. I went up to Aston Villa. I went to Sheffield United. I started pre-season. I had a month of Man United with the reserves up here.
Okay.
Because it was, which is quite surprising to people when they hear that, is because I think that just shows my ability at the time. It was almost a bit of a shock to places, because I don't think you get a call from Man United to come and start pre-season with the reserves, which have like Dominique, Lingard, etc. at the time, if you haven't got any ability. So it wasn't necessarily that. It was just didn't have the right opportunity, I don't think, and didn't take it in whatever reason that was. But so anyway, I got sick and tired of the trials, etc., and spending a week, 2 weeks here, and I went and played for my old coach in the conference. And I played there, and I just hated every minute of it. I was like, you've gone from, it's a cliche, I've said it before, you've gone from playing at stadiums, pushing for around the first team, or you might get on loan and get some experience this season, to all of a sudden playing in the conference and the ball's just going over my head in the middle of the park. It's boggy, they know you're a young lad that's come to try and smash it. I said, it's for me, someone that thinks, a bit more logically, it was like, actually, how am I really going to show my performance in this level? Like I see it all the time. I said, I don't know many centre midfielders that have dropped down the leagues to go in the conference and come back up to the Premier League. There might be one or two, but I can't name any off the top of my head, because there's got to be the right environment, and for me, I struggled mentally, and I just had a bit of a breakdown on the pitch one time and just called it a day at that point. I'm just like, I'm done with it. That was obviously about November time, so probably about sort of 6-7 months after my release, and ended up going to America and just.
How old was you,
jumping
Kieran,
at that.
when you had that?
I was 20.
Okay.
I was 20.
Okay.
So this is 5 years ago now.
Yeah, because I remember similar to you. I remember again, I played centre midfielder, and I remember going down the lower leagues, and it was just like you said, the ball's just, you're doing this. You're looking over your shoulder 24/7, the ball's going over you like a tennis match. And I remember I had like a mental breakdown as well, where I was just like, what am I actually doing? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like, I'm never really going to get anywhere with this. Do you know what I mean? And it's only then when I realized I kind of have to go somewhere else. And that's when I went to Cyprus and I started playing football over there, and I started enjoying a little bit more. So quite similar to you, where you went on to America.
It's fun, that enjoyment again, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So,
and I think, it's massive. That's what you end up losing, is that enjoyment side of it. And for me, that's why I jumped out to the States. And I had it all the time. And even now, I still get people going, "Oh, I feel like you just quit early." No, it wasn't about quitting. That's not my mentality at all. It was, weighing up the position I was in mentally, how happy I was, realistic opportunities of me really going somewhere with it. Because, for me, I felt like I had more to offer than playing part-time or playing, in the lower leagues and sitting on the bench on a Tuesday night, no disrespect to it, in Torquay or Carlisle. That for me was what the possible future could be. And it's not a future I wanted at all. And that was, something that was sort of pushed me by my parents and that. And then I went to the States and started enjoying my football there, but more went for the side to sort of look at the future, really. So that's what the gamble I took, if you want to call it a gamble. But I think it was more of a strategic thought process behind it.
How did that come about? The opportunity to go to America.
Just from my friends. So there was a lad that I used to play with, a guy called Jake Young, brother of Luke Young, who used to play for Villa, was it? I think. And
I think Charlton as well.
That's it. Yeah, he's his brother, and he just rang me up and was like, "I heard you like going through a hard time and that." He said, "Come out here, have a look at what you want to do. You're a pretty switched on guy, and get a degree and come and just enjoy football in the sun for a bit." And I just, obviously it was all going through my head when I was playing in the conference and stuff, and I was looking around, as you can imagine, like, thinking, what am I doing? Could I be going to play in Florida or wherever it is?
It's a tough decision there, Kieran.
I thought, it was a tough decision. But no, it wasn't at the time. And I did sit on the plane when I was sat on the plane though. I was 2021 at this time. I was sat on the plane. I was thinking, I can't believe how quickly this has changed. I know life changes for people quickly, and it was just more at the point of, I can't believe what's gone on, really, and what am I doing? You do have that doubt comes in, but you've got to override that at times and just jump at things, I think.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's like that we got to take those risks. Sometimes with no risk, there's no reward. You know what I mean? And sometimes got to be a calculated risk. Do you know what I mean? And it's not just jumping out of the plane without no parachute or anything like that. So you know what I mean? But do you know what? I don't want to skip past in terms of like the mental health of it, because it's a touchy subject that a lot of people are kind of looking into it a little bit more. Now, for you at that time, obviously you're a young man. There's a lot of emotions going on. There's things happening inside of you as well that you're still developing. Your brain's still developing. There's a lot of things that are still developing that we are not seeing. How did you cope with it? What for me, sometimes I wouldn't speak to people because, again, as a man, like, you're brought up you're brought up as you can't speak about your emotions, you can't talk about that because you're seen as weak. And especially in that environment that you're in, everyone's looking to get a professional contract. If you open up and say, you know, oh, gaffer or coach, I'm feeling like this, they might look at you in a bit of a funny way, or even players might think, oh, you know what, Kieran's showing his other side. You know, we can. If I'm playing in that position, I'm going to take over. It's a doggy dog world. Now, how did you deal with those sort of things? Was there anyone that you'd speak to, or was there a technique that you would use?
Whilst I was playing.
Yeah, in terms of like when you was playing, you was going through those emotions, you know, thinking like, what am I gonna do, or do you know what I mean? Those.
So what are you talking about? Sort of after I'd left West Ham.
Yeah.
So I struggled massively. You know, I had to. Obviously, I left home at like 16. I had to move home, base myself from there. I had no real friends from there. One of my friends was traveling at the time. The other one was a pilot, so I had no friends at home. All my other friends were playing. And I struggled, you know, I didn't speak to anyone. I was usually quite a outgoing person. And I changed, you know, if you look back at it, I wouldn't speak and my parents would realise it. I found it was like I was pinned down to my bed, couldn't get out of bed, yet usually I was up like 6 o'clock in the morning, ready to go, get things done. And all of a sudden that had changed, and it was just the weight of it on me was massive. And, you know, I had to have counselling sessions for quite a while with it on myself, and you know, because I didn't speak to anyone, I found it difficult to speak to people due to the fact that, you know, I want to be able to offload without necessarily impacting other people's emotions and having them say their opinion rather than just understanding. That was something that I found difficult, and I still find difficult to today. You know, I still have times where, you know, I struggle with that, but I know I'm better equipped and, you know, more mature to be able to deal with it now. But at the time, I just couldn't speak to anyone. You know, I'd be upset. Some days I wake up and just sit in the shower and just be, you know, devastated about things. And, you know, when I see things go on with, you know, the lad Jeremy, and then there was another lad at Man United who got released who took his own life not too long ago as well. You know, I've sort of refrained on commenting about it, but it's going on all the time. You know, unfortunately, it is going on all the time, and the lack of duty of care for me is massive. You know, whether it's a dog environment, etc. Well, no, it doesn't matter. You know, these are young guys. It shouldn't be happening, because they should be getting their eyes opened up. Actually, there's a whole world out there. You've got these skills. You've done fantastically well to get to this point. That's not your end. This is just the start point of your journey of where you want to go, and that's what the change in conversation needs to happen. And there needs to be more examples rather than, you know, some of the, no disrespect, it's great to hear from ex-players that have had a great career, fantastic career, all successful, great ability, great work rate, great mentality, and everything's gone in line for them. Well, actually, no. You know, I've been in conversations with guys like Marvin Sordell, who is, you know, someone that suffered from his mental health as well, and he had a career and then turned his back on it because of the issues he had. And then, like myself, I didn't have the career, but it was early on. You know, I had ability, etc. And I've found a different path and gone down different avenues. And there's a lot of guys, you know, that I speak to now that have been successful, that not necessarily on the pitch as much. Well, they've had a certain level of success, whether it's played in the leagues, but these are the guys you want to speak to, because they've gone on again. You know, they've not just given up. Okay, they might have stopped playing football, but it doesn't mean they've given up on their happiness or their potential as a person, rather than just the football. You know, and I think that these sort of conversations need to be had with lads, because there's plenty of players that are going on to be successful in other lines of work, but you just doesn't seem to get the limelight as much.
No, for sure, I agree with you. And knowing the things that you know now, because like you said, you're better equipped now. Would you change anything about that situation, what you was going through, or would you handle it in a different way, or would you just leave it as it is because it's made you the person that you are today?
I think it's made me the person I am today. I don't think without any of that, I'd be doing what I am now, or give me, you know, the personality that I have today. You know, I'm line of work where there's ups and downs all the time. And I think that all the football side of stuff and, you know, the negatives has led me to the person I am today. And it's strange to think it's that acceptance is massive. You know, I had bitterness for a couple of years, you know, when I was, you know, in my early 20s.
Yeah.
And it was hard to let go. But as soon as I let go of that and just completely drew a line under it, I've been, you know, it's definitely worked better for myself. You know, there's obviously times that you know, you've have hard times like anybody in life, but you're just
Yeah.
better equipped to deal with it. And yeah, I just don't think I'd change anything. You know, it's happened, and you know, you just got to grow from it.
Yeah. Yeah. And how are you? Because I remember when I was 16 and I got released as well, and I was like, I just didn't want to watch football again. If like every time
Yeah.
the football come on the telly, I'll turn it off, or I literally don't know what's going on in the football industry. Did you ever go through that?
Yeah, when I was in the States,
Yeah.
I didn't watch it. I just didn't care about it. It was more of the fact it was, when I look at it, I said I didn't care about it. It was just like it was pulling up emotions, you know, and that's one of
Mm.
those things that you try and avoid. But like I said, once you have that acceptance and just responsibility, and you
Yeah.
take ownership of things completely, of this has happened, this is it. Well, I'm going to go on. Then you feel better about things.
Mm.
You know, I don't watch football religiously like I did before. Like I was obsessed, you know,
Yeah.
like most young guys are, like yourself probably. I was obsessed with, you know,
Yeah.
watching it, and Champions League's on tonight. Champions League's on, yeah, okay, great. But if I've got stuff to do or want to do something else or socialise, well,
Yeah.
not at the minute, but in general, then I'm going to do that because it makes me happier than watching football. You know, for me personally, I'm a Man United fan because I was born up in Manchester originally, and we've got a few seats our company at the ground. But you know, I'll go to the odd game with that, but
Yeah.
it's not doesn't consume my life now because it's not really part of my life. And that's why I went down the route I did with the career I'm doing, because I
Mm.
can, obviously I'm working with players and helping players plan financially for the future, and athletes, and making sure they're in the best spot. But
Yeah.
that's great. I can have a chat with them about football, and obviously I still keep up to date with it. And it's quite nice to see clients doing well and things like that, and win at the weekend, and
Yeah.
that sort of thing. But then again, I can just step away with it. Then I've got to talk to someone about their pension the next day, or whatever it might be, who's not in football at all, you know. So
Yeah.
it's good for me, really. And I think it's one of those that this is just a situation that suits me, I think.
And that's beautiful. Again, like there's not many stories like yours, though, Kieran, where a lot of people leave football and, like you said, they've drawn the line and it's kind of they've moved on. There's a lot of players that have got resentment of, you know, what they've gone through, and they're kind of held back a little bit. So it's, again, whoever's listening and maybe gone through the same situation, I think it's a beautiful story to hear. Where in terms of, you know, you've moved on, you're doing other things where you're still kind of part of the game. You know, you're still working in the game, you're still
Yeah, of
helping
course.
players,
Yeah,
and but you're not fully invested in it too much. You know what I mean? Because again,
yeah,
you've been in the back end, you know the politics behind what happens, and sometimes
yeah,
once you know that, you kind of lose, you know, not love of the game,
yeah,
because the game itself you'll always love, but in terms of the
yeah. Of
industry,
course,
you know what I mean? So
changes your opinions on it for sure.
exactly, and just quickly to touch on when you decided, you know what, football is not going to work for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to pack it in. What did you have options? Did you know what you was going to do next, or was it a thing where it's like, you know, I'm going to retire, I'm going to get on with it?
Yeah, so I was obviously playing in the States and I was studying out there, but I couldn't manage to finish my degree, which was a nightmare, really.
Yeah.
And then obviously all stuff went on there, political stuff. And I came back and I was like, what was I, 23?
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, well, what do I do? I'm back to square one. I've got no qualifications. I've got minimal opportunities to go Conference League 2, maybe on training with some teams. And what am I doing? And I just said, you know what, I'm done. What's the
Yeah.
point? I said, it's not benefiting me in any way. People saying you give up that stuff, whatever, they can say what they want. I didn't. I made a decision that was right for me and for myself, and for people around me.
Mm.
So yeah, I didn't have any options. So I literally was like, well, I need to do something. So I rang up this was probably one of my lowest points as well. So I rang up sort of a business owner in just a village in Cambridgeshire that we live in. He's got like an engineering factory and employs like 70 people or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
My dad was like, you need to do something, get out. You need to do
Keep
that while
busy.
you're looking at other stuff in the background. You know, it's not going to be you, but you know, I had to get some money in as well at the time.
Yeah.
You know, I'd whittled through my savings when I was in the States, and it was more for the sanity rather than the money, the cash flow at the time. It was more just to keep my brain active. And
Mm-hmm.
I just went up to the factory and just, who's like, what are you doing? How's things going? I just said, I need a job. And, you know, he just sort of was like, what? Like, obviously, because he knew me as playing, etc. And I said, I need some work. I need to I've stopped playing. I'm completely done. Need some work. And he was like, well, you're not skilled or to do anything. And he said, you're going to have to do something that's pretty awful. So I just went out and worked in the yard, lifting metal, moving stuff around from like 9 till 5 in November, December time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was freezing. It was horrible. You know, it was hard labor, and it was just like, I don't want to do this. You know, it's not going to be me for the rest of my life. So I started contacting other people. I had a few people, obviously through the game, that contacted me about coaching and becoming an agent and that sort of thing. And it was just not for me. It just wasn't my personality type. It was like relying on other people again. It wasn't me taking control, and that was what I wanted. I wanted to take control, and I managed to get put in touch with a guy up here in Manchester who sort of spoke to a few years before when I'd left West Ham, and he just said, well, come and have a chat and we'll talk you through it, etc. And I just had a few conversations with people that knew a bit about the financial industry, and they said, well, if you've got the opportunity for them to, you know, pay for your training and put you through it in a year, then go for it. But I had to go from that point to pass an exam before I got onto the final interview. I had to have like 5 interviews up here and in Manchester for it, coming up and down and still working at the place, studying in the evenings after I'd worked 9 till 5. You know, all of a sudden you've gone from, you know, getting spoke down to by people that are working in the factory because you're doing the worst job, to studying tax and investments in the evening. But I was so tunnel visioned again at this point. This is where my tunnel vision came in. I said I could picture it at this point, what I was going to do and where I was going to go. And it didn't matter that I was working this job. It didn't matter that I was doing any of this. I was focused again on what I'm doing, and that's what I needed, which I'd already had in football. So managed to get to the final interview, and they took me on, one of like 18 people that they took on. I was the youngest one by a few years, and just went through the qualifications last year in 9 months. Struggled with some of the exams at times, because it was completely new to me. Every page I turned, you know, this thick, some of the books, and it was, you know, up till 2 a.m. and then in there all day and stuff like that. So it was tough, but I managed to get through it and not look back again.
Mate, what a story, mate. Honestly, because I'm just thinking, obviously, at that time for myself, but you was at one of the best clubs again in Europe, and for you to do those things that you've just explained, you have to be mentally strong. Do you know what I mean? You've got to be mentally strong to get through that, and to see where you are now. And, you know, I'm sure there's still elements that you're still working on and you want to improve and you want to get better, without a doubt. But to do that just shows that literally you can do anything. Doesn't matter, you know, your circumstance, whether you've been at the top, whether you've been at the bottom, as long as you've got that mental resilience and you've got that drive and you've got that dedication, you can do anything. Do you know what I mean? And do you feel, you know, your time as a football player has equipped you in terms of, you know, certain attributes that you had to learn to go through the academy? Do you feel like you've transferred those attributes and skills into the industry that you're in currently?
Yeah, there's definitely some transferable skills, because I think it's, you know, over some people that were similar age to me that have been to university and, you know, lived at home, and okay, that's fine. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. It's good. Everyone's got different paths, but I just think you've got a different mentality as a sports person. You've got that drive, you've got that hunger to get up. Like, I don't now, obviously, because I've replaced that drive. It's, you know, some people are like, I don't want to work a Friday, or I don't want to have to do anything on the weekend. But obviously things are a bit different at the minute. But when things open up, if I've got to go see someone on Saturday, or I need to get up at X amount in the morning, I'm going to do it. Yeah, you know, because it's what I'm doing. There's not even a doubt in your mind that you're doing it or complaining about it, because it's what you want to do, and you've got to be grateful for that. I think is, if you're doing something that you're passionate about, then everything comes with it. And that resilience is massive. You know, you've had to fight for yourself, you know, whether it's on the pitch or, you know, working in the gym, working on days that people won't, you know, where I was 13, 14, you know, when I was an academy player, I'd go running on Christmas Day. You know, it wouldn't bother me because I wanted to do something. And it's the same with this now. Obviously, I like to try and take a few more days than I would have done because that's the flexibility of my job. That's the flexibility of my job now. But it's still that point, you know, if you've got to see someone, you know, if I've got to drive a few hours to go and see someone, it's not an issue, you know. It's it's hard to describe it. It's just that mentality of you want to do something and you're going to do it, you know.
No, for sure. And obviously I understand that the climate and that we're in at the moment, but would you say you're in a good place, like mentally and also in terms of career wise?
It's always one of those. I think when you've got that drive, you always want to be in a better place, don't you?
Yeah.
And obviously you've got, you know, people say it to me all the time. It's been my first year in business, and this has gone on. You could look at that and go, oh my God, it's been dreadful. Which at times I thought, oh God, this has been really difficult. But then there's other times you've got to think, oh, I've got through that. Actually, this is just going to be another thing that you're going to tick in a box and you're going to get through. Ups and downs, like anyone. This is a thing. It still goes on mentally. You know, I still have my days where I'm down because you just get that, and it's about dealing with that and understanding this. You're going to have days like that, you know, and that's what I see with these young lads now that have, you know, been in a dark place that I've been in at times. You know, if they took that step, you know, and it's awful to hear because I could have a bad day. Like, you know, it was an up and down day for me yesterday with just different things at work, and then but it's a new day again. It's a new day to go again and to keep going as you know, as long as you're breathing, you've got something to go for and you've got opportunities, you just got to keep going and going. I think that's what it is. And it doesn't matter how low you can get. There's always a way out, you know. There is. And these are these conversations that need to be had because it might feel like the worst thing in the world, you know, but it might be the worst thing in the world at the time. It might be, and that's what people forget. But no, you can still get out of it. You can still find something and be happy, you know. And I think that's something that's got to be spoke to these young lads, really.
No, powerful, Kieran. Now, in terms of what you're doing at the moment, you know, just explain to us a little bit about that, and what does that entail?
So obviously I'm a financial advisor, so financial planner, financial coach, whatever you want to label it as, wealth manager, whatever it is. So I give investment advice, retirement planning, protection advice as well. So just all areas to make sure that you're in the best position financially. And it's just about finding out about people's goals, really, and understanding them, you know, seeing where they're at, where they want to go, and how we're going to get there in the best way possible, really. And it's huge because, you know, I read obviously articles all the time about players and losing money and bankruptcy, and there's just no need for it. There's no need for it. And that's where it becomes where there are a lot of take in football. You know, there's a lot of people that want a piece of the pie, but actually at the end of the day, the most important person is the player, or the person, as I like to say, not the player. You know, the person's before the player. Understanding where they want to be and just trying to get that message across from build good habits from an early age. You know, I'm obviously 25. I'm a lot younger than most financial advisors in the country. I haven't got grey hair yet. You know, give it a few years. It might be a bit different, but that's why I'm sort of wanting our generation, you know, the ex-players that I'm working with, or, you know, ex-teammates of mine that I'm helping now, is I've gone through, I see it as, you know, not sound ridiculous we say calling, but is as a purpose. I've gone through all the stuff that I went through. I've seen the other side of how things can be. I don't want that to be you, whether it's 25, 30, 35, whatever career you have. I don't really care. I want to make sure that you're in the best financial position, because then when you've got the transition of, you know, yourself, your identity, you've got to change, you've got family pressures, you've got kids now, and all that sort of thing. I want them to be in the best position financially so that they can just concentrate on themselves to do that, you know. And that's where I feel like I can add great value now, and I'm trying to help people. And that's, you know, that's what gets me out of bed in the morning is, you know, if I can tick another player off that I've helped or can help them build to the future, then, you know, that's great for me.
No, that's amazing. And again, like you said, it's like we go things for a reason, and it's like you said, it's more so like a calling or a purpose. And it's like once you get to a certain stage, you're thinking, okay, that's why that happened. You know what I mean? This is why I'm doing this. But at first, it's
Yeah,
just like, why? Why am I going through this? Why is this happening to me? Do you know what I
yeah,
mean? Like you're saying now, at the moment, it's like I can see from you speaking about it, I can see there's more of a enjoyment. I can see that there's more of a buzz about you to say, you know, this is what I'm doing. I'm trying to help people that have gone through
yeah,
certain situations, and especially financially as footballers, you know, money comes and goes. And you know, a lot of
yeah, for
them
sure.
will spend more than they earn sometimes. I know footballers that live on check by check, like, you know, week by
Yeah,
week. And it's like, you're thinking, how? Like, why? Like, in your opinion, because obviously you've been in that industry, like,
mm-hmm.
what's the common reasons of footballers spending more than what they earn?
It's the bubble and the environment of people thinking that they're the Premier League earners is the
Mm,
bottom line of it. It's trying to maintain that lifestyle and that perception of your identity again. And once
mm,
again, identity issues at times. I've got players in from the Premier League to League Two in my first year already,
yeah,
and you know I see people's earnings. I see, and there's a huge difference.
yeah,
There's a huge difference, and it's how I compare it is, I see some players, League Two or under 21 players driving big cars or whatever it is. Fine, have a car, but do all the other things right. What are you doing with the rest of your money? Um, can you afford that? Is that the right thing to do? Because I'm not living like the CEO of St James's Place Wealth Management,
mm,
because I'm not on that sort of money, or
yeah,
I'm not making that. Well, yeah, potentially he could build a good business, but there's there's that urge to be seen as a footballer, to be seen as this and be a certain way, have a certain clothes, have certain cars, and it's just wrong, and it's just the mentality of it at the minute. I don't think it's ever really. It's going to be difficult to change, but it's about just tweaking how they approach different things. It's are you building for your future? What if this happens? Hoping for the best and planning for the
yeah,
worst is literally the best way to say it. Really,
mm,
is what I'm trying to do, and I'm not too sure why it's the mentality in football or why they need that, but it's all about what car you turn up in the training ground with,
yeah,
etc. It's just um, it's not the best mentality to have, especially because it can change. You could be on very good money one year, and the next you have a bad season, end up League One and Two. It's not as
yeah,
it's not as
yeah.
positive for your bank account, if you want to say.
Mm. If I'm an 18-year-old player and I'm playing for a Premier League club
Mhm.
and I'm getting X amount of money per month and I've come to you, Kieran, what should I do with my money? What advice would you give to players?
It's honestly just varies on the person to person.
Yeah.
I just look down and give a full review of where they're at, their earnings, how long their contract is, what you can start planning now. What
Mm.
if this happens? What if you increase there? But making sure you've just got something, in the background for the worst case scenario. Just start to build those habits of saving plans. Getting your money to work for you in the best way possible. Get it to grow rather than just depreciate when it's sat in the bank sometimes with the lads. And
Mm.
I've got lads that are playing at Premier League clubs and Championship clubs, League One, League Two, and it just surprises me how there's not been financial advice in place. Some lads that have been on big contracts, big money. If you're on that sort of money working anywhere else at a company, then I'm pretty sure that you'd be getting an accountant or you'd be getting a financial advisor to come and sit down with yourself.
Mm.
So that's where it is, and it's just about the relatability. Obviously, there's a bubble in football, and being my age, I'm out. I feel like I'm, a lot of my ex teammates are still playing. They're
Yeah.
playing at good levels, or people that I know, and they speak to people. And I think that's just how I'm going to build my business because I'm young with it as well. Okay, you could look at the flip side; he's not got as much experience, but I'm working with the director at my place. Is he's 25 years and
Yeah.
financial advisor of the year in the Northwest. I've got all of that. I've got the full expertise of our company of investment experts and retirement planning. So, I'm the face-to-face trusted person, if you like, and I do have my own knowledge, but I've got everything to lean on, and it's only going to benefit the players by having a conversation.
No, for sure, for sure. And a lot of people think because footballers always get, well, not always, but some footballers are on big money, they're obliged to do other things with it in terms of whether it'll be like giving money away, etc. And you do see a lot of that, where it's like if a player's come from a certain background, you got to remember they're looking after quite a few people. Do you know what I mean? It's like cousins,
Yeah, of
mum,
course. Yeah, family.
brother, family. And
Yeah.
it's like by the end of it, you're thinking, where's all that money gone? And it's like you said, if you're not putting it in the right places and for the money to be working for you, it can easily just go down the pan for you. And before you know it, 10 years is gone and you've got nothing to show for it. And you're chasing money now. Like, again,
Yeah.
what advice? I know you've just touched on a little bit on that, but what advice would you give on or give to young players that are coming through the game at the moment in terms of handling their money in the best way?
I think to get advice, you need to
Yeah.
sit down with someone and have a conversation, whether it be myself or somebody else. You need to have a conversation with an expert. If my bathroom breaks, I'm not trying to fit it. I'm going to ring a plumber.
Yeah.
Well, actually, let's prevent it from breaking. Your finances in whatever stage that will be, whether it's 25, 30, 35, and you've got a whole life to live. Even if you have a full career playing in the leagues to 35, and you've got to be earning a lot of money to be able to live for 50 years after your retirement is. We live into our 80s now comfortably, and Premier League players, if you're doing the right things, then definitely you've got a different approach, and there's different things that we can do to make sure that you keep that money and get it working for you. But other players as well have got to think about your retirement from the game. It's like a double retirement. 35 and mid-30s is your retirement from football, but then 20, 30 years down the line, you've got to retire again. Have you got the pot of money to live off in retirement? Well, knows the answer 9 times out of 10 and knows the answer again. So let's have a conversation and let's get you in the best place possible for the money that you're earning.
Perfect. And we'll link everything, in terms of your company and where they can get hold of you in the description, and hopefully we'll get a few people along your way. But just a few more questions, Kieran, just in terms of some quick fire round questions.
Yeah, no worries.
Hold up. I think it's
fire away, mate.
Fire away, yeah. There you go. Right. Best player that you've played with, and why? Also,
this is always difficult. Talent or just
up to you. Just best player that you, pure talent. Best or player that's wowed you throughout your time.
I'd say I would throw it between two. One that I've played through with the academy that didn't make it, and then one that just had the best ability. So Leo Chambers, if you remember him, centre half, unbelievable. Had a lot of injury issues that obviously doesn't play anymore. Brilliant player, but Ravel Morrison, talent-wise.
What was
when he came at West Ham?
Yeah, I've seen
his ability was just ridiculous. Just insane. Just things that you can't do as a player. He'd be able to do. So yeah. Ravel probably.
Why do you think? Because obviously there's obviously reports and people know why in terms of Ravel, but why do you think he didn't really make it to the highest level? Because look, he'd been away and he's come back and he had a move to Sheffield United. So clearly the ability is there. But why? What was the reason you think why he didn't really make it to the highest level on a consistent basis?
I mean, I think it'd be wrong to criticize Ravel, because someone that comes from probably where his background is. I don't know his ins and outs of his family life, but it's going to be a lot harder than say someone that came through. And this once again comes down to the emotional intelligence, the management of people. And I always see there's critics. Well, actually, still for what he's done very well to get to where he is. Okay, he had this fantastic ability, but there's other things that go on in football that a lot of people don't see. And there's everyone has their own demons and stuff like that as well. And I think it's one of those where sometimes people look a bit too black and white. They look at ability and they don't. There's a lot in between that. There's a lot that's probably gone on and for people to understand and the person themselves. So it's hard for me to say and criticize at that point because I just know that there's a lot more to it than than sometimes having the best ability. There's a mentality, but a mentality is built by circumstances. It's built by different things that have gone on in your life to how you deal with situations. And I think that's a prime example. Without going too much into it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you, mate. I totally agree with you. I've been around people that, again, they've got all the ability, but again, you got to marry the ability with, the mindset. And also with the mindset, it comes with a lot of baggage because, again, the way we've been brought up or, like family circumstances. So there's a lot that comes with it. So I totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally. Next one, toughest opponent you've come up against.
Michael Carrick.
Yeah.
In a reserve game, I just couldn't get near him. That might have been the end of my time, mate. To be honest, he was coming back from an injury. He played in midfield and just played 1 and 2 touch the whole game. I was about 18. Yeah, he was just showed the level really.
Yeah, I can't argue with that one there neither. That's a. Do you think he gets enough recognition, Michael Carrick, for what he's done?
No, probably not. What he did, I was a United fan as well, and obviously he came through West Ham, stayed in the digs where I used to stay at. He's top player, wasn't he? Brilliant.
Yeah, and doing his coaching things and whatnot with United. So yeah, definitely. Favorite manager you've played for?
My best season under Steve Potts when he was the youth team manager.
Okay.
Steve Potts or Nick Haycock spent a lot of time at the academy with me at West Ham, and in the reserves. So yeah, probably toss up between one of those two different types. But yeah, they were both very good. Steve's obviously at West Ham still.
Yep.
And Nick's not coaching at the minute.
Okay. What were they like in terms of man management towards you?
Nick was more sort of on to me, with my mentality, like to, push on, like would get at the weaknesses of my game, that side of things. And then Steve was just gave me a lot of freedom at the time when I was a young player, gave me a lot of freedom and confidence to just go and play. And I thrived in different ways under both, So yeah, that's probably, and different things looking back at it, you learn from all these things, especially with what I'm doing now, is how to deal with different characters and different ways of going about things and understanding people, because it's important with what I do. It's not just seeing the finances, it's understanding the person to why they want to do a certain thing with their money or plan, so it's all learned experience, I guess.
No, for sure. And yeah, that was a good one as well. Steve Potts, I know he does some great things over at West Ham. Last one for you, Kieran. Best lesson you've learned in the last 6 months?
That's in the last 6 months. Probably just not take your family and everything for granted. I think that's anything that can go on with your jobs or your money or your restrictions of your life, but people come and go in your life, but there's certain few that will stay there with you through thick and thin, with friends, etc. And I think it's keeping those people close to you and being grateful to people that do give you opportunities. The place I'm at now, and the director Simon's been fantastic with me to learn off him and etc. So just really keeping those people close is probably what I've learned the most, and to stay resilient.
Brilliant, mate. Honestly, just having a conversation with you, just kind of giving me that just that bit of gas as well, like that bit of fire in me just to keep going, because again, everyone has their own stories, and especially when you hear someone like yourself speaking about what you've gone through and to where you are now, it takes a lot of, like we said, resilience, like character, a lot. It's a mental state as well, has to be really, really strong. So mate, honestly, I appreciate your time and speaking to us and sharing your journey, and whoever's been listening to this as well, I'm sure they've gained something from it, whether it'll be young players coming through the game or players that have retired and don't really know what they're doing with their life or their next step. So there was a lot of gems that you've dropped for us, and again, thank you very much, Kieran, and I appreciate your time.
No worries. Thanks for having me on. Some great questions there as well, mate. So I appreciate it.
Thank you. And we'll leave all the details on how people can get in contact with you as well in the description. So Perfect. And people, again, don't forget to like, comment, share, subscribe, so we can continue doing the work, from our side, and give you the best content that we can. So again, Kieran, really appreciate your time. Thank you, mate.
Cheers, mate. Appreciate it.